Each of us has a light that's been put in us, not meant to shine that light, but to share our light. Welcome to Share Your Light, where we have candid conversations with individuals who have overcome tremendous hardship and adversity in their journey through life. Today, we have Olympic bronze medalist Kellie Wells Brinkley here to share her journey through adversity and grief. Remember to go ahead and share this video with someone who can benefit and subscribe to our channel for more. Welcome, Kellie. Thank you for joining us.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good.
Oh, I see your picture. Zoom up so I can see the picture in the background. Nice. I love it.
Thank you.
Is that your husband in
Yeah.
54? Who did he play for?
Arizona Cardinals, Minnesota Vikings, Dallas Cowboys, and New York Giants.
New York Giants. Okay, those are the Giants colors in that one. Yeah, my husband, he played for a few teams too. He played for the Bengals, the Browns, Jacksonville Jaguars, and Atlanta.
Oh, fun. When did he play?
98 to 2003.
Okay.
Yeah. When'd your husband play?
2009 until 2016.
Okay. Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 37.
37. Okay.
You?
Yeah. 42.
Child, you look like a young whippersnapper.
Girl, and then this last, I haven't been sleeping well.
Yes.
So I just said to my husband, I said, I'm starting to get bags under my eyes. I'm starting to age, but it is what it is.
They said that a lot of people are having sleeping problems during this whole pandemic stay at home because we're just not expending as much energy and we don't have that same hustle and bustle of a day.
Yeah.
A lot of people are experiencing that. So you're not alone.
Yeah, and I'm up like a maniac, I'm up just not even sleepy until 5 in the morning. 5 in the morning, then I want to lay down okay, that's a normal time to go to sleep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So how are your children?
No, they're good. They're just both itching to go places. And I'm like, first of all, no. Second of all, where did you go before this? Where? Nowhere.
Well, you have a 15-year-old, you said? I can see him wanting to get out. Yeah, I can't imagine being just cooped in like this, as a teenager.
Yeah, it's gotta suck. And I think it made all of them really appreciate going to school.
I saw something this morning. I don't know what school is going to be like in August, but I saw someone post this morning that they're talking about the desks have to be 6 feet apart in the classroom. And they're okay, I taught for 10 years. There's not enough room in the classroom to have 30 desks 6 feet apart.
And so that means it's going to be reduced class sizes. And that's even if school starts in, August.
Right.
Because I'm thinking dang, this has impacted everything moving forward. And we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, 2 months down the line, whatever. So what if school doesn't start then? And then, yes, what are they going to do? Locker room situations will be so different. School buses, everything.
Yeah.
I was even thinking about NCAA sports, college football. They have no spring practice. They won't have summer practices. So they would just have to come back ready to play in the fall. That's not going to happen.
And then think about what that's going to do to injuries too, because weightlifting is completely eliminated. Even if people can go out and do routes or run, they're not lifting weights, which, helps protect the joints.
Yep.
So,
they can't practice at a team. What are we going to do? All sit around on Zoom and talk about a playbook? I'm oh my gosh, this is.
And then in the fall, when it starts back up, if it starts back up, we don't know if they're going to allow fans in the stands. We don't know, if they're talking about 6 feet distancing for students, athletes are going to be sweating and touching each other and breathing on each other. And, you know, when you get hit, you're going to project out, you know, whatever the
each other and rubbing and all of that, or like team planes would look completely different. Like you would have to take 2 planes, not one, because you have to be socially distanced on a plane.
well, funding is going to be significantly cut because someone was telling me because of the Final Four and all the money they lost that the NCAA lost with basketball. They said University of Cincinnati cut their soccer program. Did you hear that?
Oh no.
The men's soccer program completely gone from this.
No, this COVID has changed our whole, like everything, like the complexity of how we see everything, even small things of how we function are changed.
Yeah, right. And so when we're talking about all of this COVID-19 stuff, how has it affected and impacted you and your family? We were talking about the kids earlier, but how about you? Has it affected your stress level at all?
Some days are harder than others, I won't lie. I will say that my family is very blessed because my husband and I we kept our jobs. So like we didn't have to experience any layoffs or like life changes that way. But he still goes into work. I work from home. I've always worked from home, but I travel with work, so that's cut. But he goes into work every day because he's essential. So he works, he's a manager for a shipping company. He manages a plant here in Houston. So he goes into work and comes home every day. So there's that stress of like, you know, he comes into contact with so many things and so many people. So we're just careful that way. And then I'm home all day with kids. So like all day.
And that's new, right? Because they were at school and daycare before.
Yes. So I love them dearly, and it's let me, you know, get to know them in different ways. But quiet time is few and far between.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm thankful that we're healthy and, you know, not worrying about where the next meal or dollar is going to come from.
Yes, yes. I can't imagine going through this. I was talking to someone else and I said the experience for people who, you know, live in a house and, you know, have a spare bedroom and have food, a fully stocked refrigerator and pantry, their experience is completely different than people who are doubled up, like 2 families living in one house or one apartment and, you know, that were dependent on free and reduced lunch for meals every day. Their experience is completely different. And even the college students, we were talking about the NCAA, I started thinking about how many kids, you know, the NCAA a couple years ago, they started doing like community meals versus meal plans. So like people would go to the cafe, like in the common athletic area, it would be lunch and breakfast and snacks that they could get. So some people were dependent on that for those 2 meals a day, and they only receive money for 1 meal a day. And I just think about what are those kids doing now that that's closed down and they're not getting that money. And then dorms are closing soon. And so people who are here living in the dorms, living in other countries, they're like originally from other countries, can't get back to their countries because the countries are closed. Now they have to move out of the dorms or out of the on-campus apartments. And what are they going to do?
Where are they going? Or I think about, you know, once I left home and went to college, like I don't have very much of a relationship with my father at all. Like I think about like, what would I have done? Where would I have gone? I would have been like sleeping on my friends' couches or something like that. Like, so I'm like, yes, that's a scary, scary feeling for these kids of like, what's going to happen? Or college or school in general is most times like when people have rough home lives, that's their getaway. And now they're just stuck in chaos.
Was college like a getaway for you?
Big
So
time.
your father, you didn't live with your father, correct?
Not for a long time. I lived with my mom until she passed away. And then we had to go live with our dad.
And how many siblings did you have?
I have 2 siblings, but my older sister is 6 years older than me, so she was gone and out of the house by then. But I have a younger brother who's 2 years younger than me.
Okay. And so you mentioned losing your mom. That was a pretty hard time in your life.
Probably no, I would say the hardest. Just because, I mean, I wasn't an adult yet. So I went from, being raised to, being very much on my own because my dad just had no idea, nor I don't think he had a want either. And then trying to figure out how to help my brother and raise my brother and take care of my brother.
And so you talked before about overcoming the situation with your mom and running in a race just a few days later. Can you talk a little bit about that and like how were you able to muster up the tenacity, the strength to be able to do that?
It was a hard decision because I didn't want to be looked at as like selfish of like, we're going to have to plan her funeral around what I have going on. But I knew that I had to go run. One, my teammates were like completely depending on me. And then two, I knew this was going to be my livelihood. And I wanted to have an escape from what I was dealing with. And so track always provided an escape from everything that I dealt with in my home life. And then I knew that everyone around me, people at school, my family, they were all looking at me like, is she okay? Is she okay? Oh my gosh, this happened. You would hear whispers in the hallway because I went right back to school because I just couldn't sit around the house while people cried. But I knew they were looking at me like, oh my God, that's the girl whose mom died. Kelly's mom died. Kelly's mom died. And I wanted them to look at me in a different light other than like the girl whose mom got killed in a car accident. So it just provided like just a safe haven, a place where I knew that like I was in control of everything that was going on rather than like being in the passenger seat.
Right. I've said that a few times, like track, it taught me like in a world that we have so little control of everything that goes on in our lives, it's the one place that we feel a little bit in control. So when chaos is ensuing in our lives, it's that safe place, that we know that, if I work really hard, then this is going to happen, you know. Was that like kind of a breaking point for you in regards to a breakthrough? Did your performances like kind of flourish after your hardship, or were they kind of already flourishing?
They were definitely already flourishing. I was on a great path. But this meet in particular, like right after she passed away and right before her funeral, I was just on fire. Like I knew like there's certain events that like in my region I was gonna win. Like I'm gonna win the hurdles. I was gonna win the 100. But like the high jump, I just did it for points for my team. But I won the high jump and broke the record. I won the triple jump, broke the record. I won the long jump, broke the record. So I was just on like autopilot. So I was already doing well, but I made people really go like, oh, oof.
You took out all that anger. So tell me a little bit. You said that your home life was, already bad. What was going on at home?
So first my mom was married to my dad for 15, 16 years, somewhere in there. And he was super abusive to her. I saw him hit her a good number of times. And then once they got a divorce, she started dating this other guy named Rick. And at first I really, really, really liked him. Like, cause he would do the things with me that my dad wouldn't do, like go outside and play. And I was really into sports. So he would, take me shooting if I wanted to like shoot hoops or, just, he was a PE teacher. So he was into that kind of stuff too. But then it turned real bad real quick. He started to be like super abusive to my mom. He was an alcoholic. And on like drugs and pills. Like I found a crack pipe in my house. Yeah, like I'm in high school at this point. Like what's even happening? Either middle school or high school. And at first I was like, I didn't even know what it was because I lived in the suburbs. So I don't know what this is. And so then I remember like Googling what I thought that it was because I remember seeing it on a movie. And I was like, oh my God, this is not happening to me. And then he was sexually abusive to me for many, many, many years. And he just had my mom so brainwashed. And so she would get jealous of me because I was getting the attention that like she wanted from him. And I'm like, ew, I don't want that. That's gross. Like, I hated it. I hated being left alone with him. I hated being around him. He had personality issues. He would go from like high to low very quickly. So the house was always tumultuous, like always. It was never like a quiet place. It would be like a place where I would dread going back to. So I would spend the night at my friends' houses as much as I could because I just didn't want to go back there. My brother was the same. And then when I was 16, right actually before their car accident, well, even going back before that, I was probably in middle school. Yeah, it was elementary, middle school. And he took my mom's car. It was on a Super Bowl Sunday. They had an argument. He took her car. He ended up getting in a car accident and killing another person. And he got convicted of involuntary manslaughter. And he spent 6 months in jail. That's it, for taking another life. And then after that, that's when because they broke up while he was in jail. We moved out, had our own apartment. So I thought that we were like Gucci, like, oh my gosh, we have our life back. I don't care, whatever it takes to make it, like, we're good. As soon as he got out of jail, they got back together. And we moved back into his house. So it was back into drama. And then, all that stuff was going on. Then when I was 16, he ended up raping me. And then I told my mom, and I don't really remember her saying too much. So I felt like it was kind of something that she just had accepted. And then...
Do you think she believed you?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. Because she had known about other stuff that had happened. And then shortly after that, maybe like a month and a half after that, they died in a car accident.
Oh, they both died? Oh.
He killed himself, her, and then the driver of another vehicle, and then the passenger of that vehicle is in a wheelchair for the rest of his life.
Wow. So you were left all alone and had to go and live with your dad, like you said. And did you move schools at that time?
Luckily, my parents both lived in the same district, so I just stayed at the same school.
Okay. And so track was the only thing that kept you rooted in some sense of normalcy in your life. I'm just thinking about, like, right now, like, if something like this happened with all of that you were already experiencing in life and you didn't have track to go to, what would that have done to Kellie?
I would have been lost for sure. Like, I know that I'm very lucky to have ended up in situations that I have ended up in. And, I have 2 degrees. I went to college for free, like went to the Olympics, just certain things, because I've talked to other women when I go volunteer at these women's shelters, and my story is the same as theirs. And they're living in a shelter on drugs, just in a bad off way. So I know that the one thing that did keep me on the straight and narrow was my passion for track and knowing that, like, I had to do the right things in order to keep doing my sport.
Right, right. When you say that about the women's shelters, it gives me a memory. I used to volunteer at Cook County Jail with my aunt. She had a program. And the thing that struck me the most was the experiences of the women who were on trial for violent crimes, unthinkable crimes. I remember one woman was on trial for hiding her boyfriend's murder of her child. And yeah, I know, infant child. And the thing that stood out was how many of those women were abused. How many of those women were abused. And that was the common thread that linked them all, was that they had unresolved trauma that no one ever helped them with. And they never knew how to have healthy relationships. And so they grew up, and it affected and impacted the decisions they made. And here we are punishing these women rather than helping them. You know, I mean, yeah, of course they made bad decisions, but what can we do to impact, or to help people who've been impacted by trauma before it gets to that point? So track was kind of like a form of therapy for you, right? It kind of helped you through those
Absolutely.
things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So did you ever get formal therapy as you got older?
I did. Once I got older and I realized that I was having like certain traits and things that like I didn't see in other people. I was like, maybe this is something worth investigating. Of why I act out in certain ways, or like I had a huge problem with male authority, and all of my coaches were men. Maybe like an assistant coach was the female or whatever, but all of my coaches were men. So like when they could tell me to do the exact right thing and I'm gonna do something completely opposite, because like don't tell me what to do, like I don't like that. So a lot of times like I could have been looked at as like uncoachable because of my attitude, or just like my rebellious ways. That's what I would call them. But I really wasn't uncoachable. It was just some things that I was dealing with.
Right. And lucky for you, you were super talented. So they worked with you on that. But I think about a kid who might not have been as talented as you, who might have been rebellious. And I see those kids being labeled as the bad kid and kicked off of a team. Um, but the ones who, you know, bring the points to the school get chance after chance. So I think that as coaches, we have to do a better job of, you know, forming that relationship and giving all kids an extra chance versus writing them off, because we never know what someone is going through and what's causing the behavior that we see. Like what we see is the effect, but we're not taking enough time to look at what the cause is, because kids don't just act out for no reason. I feel like everything in this world has a cause. And, you know, we are in a reactionary society where we just look at the effects. Yeah.
Yep. And coaches, I'll always try to like implore them to, yes, you're the authoritarian, you know, you are the end all be all, but for a lot of times for these, you know, young men and young women, that's the only father or mother figure that they may have. And they don't know how to react to like a loving authority. So we have to take the time to like get to know them and to form that trusting bond. Because I definitely had people that I trusted that I could have told, but like you just have to have that trusting bond with them so they feel safe, so they open up to you, or they just have that loving respect to you, that they may act a fool all day in school, but when they come to your practice they know that like, nah, miss whoever or coach whoever, you know, loves me and treats me like I want to be treated, so let me act right. And then hopefully that starts to bleed over into other things. But you know, as coaches, as mentors, we really have to be like open.
Right. And like when you say that, building that trusting bond, even though you trusted them, there's this I guess window that needs to be opened. Even though the trust is there, I have to open that window or that door to let you know it's okay to talk to me about things that are not just about track or about sports. Would you agree
Oh,
with that?
yeah, you gotta be very familiar with them. And you gotta notice like their moods from one day to the next. And I know it's so difficult because there's, you know, so many athletes on your team, but when you take on this role as a coach, you're not just taking it to get a stipend from a school. Like it's a lot of responsibility. So you have to open that window, that even if it's a small crack in the door, to let them know like I'm always here for you 100%, always.
That is really key. And I guess it goes back to star athlete versus the average athlete, because I think that we see it on the movies all the time and we see it on teams. Like when it's the star athlete that has a bad day, people notice, but we have to notice the little fish too. We have to notice everybody and build that relationship with every kid on the team and take time. I find that sometimes we're rushing so much that kids pick up on that, and they're like, even if they think maybe I might want to talk to coach about something, but if coach is acting so busy and so rushed, they shut it down. But keeping that, letting them know that you have time to be there for them. What would you say to the athletes who might have something that is bothering them right now? I've been talking to some athletes and talked to a few who have started experiencing depression because everything that is normal about life or has been taken away, or they're thinking like, what is my identity now? Who am I now that this has been taken away from me? Because everything good in life has always come attached to my performances. And so now the performances are taken away, practice is taken away, the relationships with teammates at practice is taken away. And now they're left to sit alone with their own thoughts, and all of the doubt and fears and anxieties that they have are taunting them in their minds. And they're feeling lost right now. What would you say to them about how to deal with those feelings?
Well, I think I would say don't be afraid to experience the feelings. Like, don't block them out. Don't pretend that they're not there, because it'll resurface at another point in life about something else, about a completely different situation. And I feel like as humans, especially in the Black community, we're like, oh, we're so tough. We don't feel, we just, nah, boys don't cry. You know, Black girls, we're tough. We got this. Like, no, that's a stigma. We should, if you want to cry, cry. If you want to, you know, go outside and holler and scream, whatever it is, you have to feel the emotion. And that's a big mistake that I made, of just not feeling where I was at the moment. So that's one thing that I would say: feel your emotions, and then journal stuff. Boys and girls, if a boy feels like it's a diary, so be it. But write it down, and then find you an adult that you can share with. It doesn't have to be your mom and dad if you don't feel like that's a safe place. But I feel like sometimes they forget that, like, you and I have been exactly where they are. And there's nothing that they could tell me that would shock me, first of all. We've seen it all, done it all, heard it all. So there's no judgment here. So pick someone that you trust, that you know that won't judge you or make you feel crazy, and express yourself, get it out and talk it out. And then maybe that adult can help with the parents, or they can just be a listening ear. But if you can't get formalized counseling, talking about it and experiencing your feelings is a great way of dealing with it and not feeling like you're alone or crazy.
That is so, so true. Like yesterday, I felt so down. I just woke up feeling so heavy. And, sometimes I would fight it, but yesterday I just leaned into it. I was just like, okay, this is what I'm feeling today. And halfway through the day, I started writing, like when you talk about journaling. And as I got my words out, I actually felt a little bit of the heaviness lift off of my shoulders just by getting it out, and not trying to make it seem like I felt a way that I didn't. Like sometimes, we feel like we have to be happy or we have to be okay because it makes other people uncomfortable when we're not okay. And sometimes I have to be okay, with how I truly am in my raw state. But I think that's a problem. People feel like if I talk to this person, oh, but I have to say that I'm okay. I have to be okay because nobody wants to be around the Debbie Downer, But as society, we have to do a better job of letting people be where they are and feel what they feel. And as coaches, if we bring it back to the athletics, coaches spend the most time out of anybody with kids. Like they spend 45 minutes a day with each teacher. They spend probably, less than an hour with their parents when they get home from practice and the parents get home from work. But as a coach, I spend almost 3 hours a day with my kids, an hour in the athletic period and 2 hours of practice every day. So during that time, those relationships have to be cultivated, and we have to realize that that's a lot of time that we could spend in between reps or, talking to kids, helping them to understand who they are and that they are cared for.